Hey, everybody, this is an episode of ExtraNormal Podcast. My name is Christoph. Alongside me is my wife, Brianna. Hi, Brianna.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Everybody watching us, listening to us from all your favorite streaming networks.
If you haven't already, this is a call tag that we never do, and I'm doing it sloppily, but like and subscribe, smash some buttons, or whatever people fucking say. How are you, Brianna?
Great. I am ready and pumped for some good Halloween shit.
It is spooky season, and I know I kind of almost hate myself for saying spooky season now because it's a thing. It's like becoming the equivalent of pumpkin fucking lattes, cinnamon pumpkin, whatever, pumpkin pie lattes, whatever they call them. Hey, Brianna, what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, there's some cult classic movies that were based out of some real people. So first of all, that we're going to be talking about Ed Gein.
Yes. This whole fucking train started out with me researching the most infamous. Whenever you see a horror movie, feels like half the fucking time now it says it's based on a true story, which is always the flimsiest fucking truth. But I started looking into that, which brought us up to Psycho and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and fucking Buffalo Bill and Silence of the Lambs and all those guys, who was inspired by the infamous Ed Gein that everybody knows about. I would assume everybody knows about. It was a long time ago, but he's pretty infamous. But that got me down the path of multiple serial killers and what kind of links we can find to horror movies. And even though Halloween wasn't based off of the second person we're going to speak about, I think that we might have found the most equivalent to fucking Mike Myers that you can find in Ed Kemper, the infamous Ed Kemper. Both these men were driven by their obsession with mother. And that's going to be our link. What drives someone to kill, right? The serial killers have a lot of motive operandi, MOs, modus operandi, whatever it is. There's a lot of those floating around, but these two killers seem to be driven by their obsession with mother. They're almost worshiping a mother, and one of them ended up killing because they were obsessed with their mother for hatred. The other one was dependent on their mother. And they felt they had to try to recreate their mother. So which one do you want to get into first, Ed or Ed?
Which, that's the ironic part, is that they both have the same
Something
name.
About Ed.
So
Something about Eds and mommies.
I think after doing our research, the most legit, I think that for people you can say was the true, I don't know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all the movies. I think Ed Gein is the OG, legit.
Well,
not saying that the other asshole.
No, Ed Kemper was not based for people who who are obsessed with horror films, which is probably a decent amount of people who listen to our podcast. For the record, Halloween was not inspired by Ed. Actually, Carpenter credited the person who co-wrote Halloween credited actually a mental institution visit with a child that's 10 to 12 he saw that just struck fear in him, and it's the idea of this ultimate evil. But Ed Kemper was that evil. I mean, he was personified. I think that maybe John Carpenter had some influence on John Carpenter subconsciously, because it was before Halloween was made or written in 10 days, which is amazing to think about. They wrote that screenplay in 10 days. But yeah, let's talk about Ed Gein, because Ed Gein is he's maybe the most mythical. He's maybe the most mythical serial killer we have, other than maybe Richard Ramirez is kind of up there in terms of this larger than life persona based on his horrific actions.
My boyfriend.
Oh, don't even. It's fucking thinking ass please bag.
We will be putting pictures on our Instagram also to show you guys some pictures of Ed Gein if you don't want to Google him or whatever, if you're feeling lazy. But the picture that I'm looking at right now on my laptop is just, he's got these eyes that are just so hollow and empty inside. It's it's really like it's almost mesmerizing because you're just like staring and you're just like, God, like if I can get in that sicko's head, just
I don't think.
how could you even make sense of everything that he's done and did? But
so let's get into it.
yes.
So because Ed Gein it's a fucking treasure trove of fucking everything. Ed Gein was born actually in La Crosse County, Wisconsin, on August 27th, 1906. So he would have just celebrated birthday. I mean, this is a spoiler that he's dead now at this point. Yeah, he would have been, how old was he?
Oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah, he would have been,
Crazy.
yeah. He lived pretty long.
He died in 94.
Yeah.
So, or sorry, 84.
Like
he died in 84.
Like
so
yeah, he would have been 100 and something.
Gross.
Yeah. But he was born in 1906. The son of George Philip Gein and Augusta, maiden name Wilhelmine, that later turned out to be Gein. He had an older brother named Henry, who we'll get into later. So Ed Gein's childhood, right? He grew up in kind of a fucked up home. His father was an alcoholic, just a recurring thing amongst one of the things that kind of links serial killers is these fucking chaotic, abusive upbringings. His father was an alcoholic store owner, and Augusta, Ed Gein's mother, thought that the beautiful town of La Crosse, Wisconsin, was essentially we saw a video that someone said that Augusta saw it as like a Sodom and Gomorrah. Now we're talking about La Crosse, Wisconsin. Have you ever heard of La Crosse, Wisconsin?
No.
Exactly. It's not Vegas. But she was so devout. His mother was a hardcore Christian. She thought that this town, La Crosse, was far too big for them, and it was far too sinful for them. So they sold up their store that they had in La Crosse that the husband or the father of Ed Gein built up and owned. They sold it to move to Plainsfield, and there they bought a farm and lived there. Well, Ed Gein lived there until his capture, ultimate capture. So yeah, so they ended up moving to the town of Plainsfield, and that's why he gets the beautiful deemed nickname of the Butcher of Plainsfield, which is very deserved for him.
And I mean, when you think about the years of his life, especially early on, if you had like a super overprotective, quote unquote, Christian mother, but think about what they had gone through. Also, like if he was born in what you said, 1906. So like he went through their own pandemic back then, the Spanish flu, which probably isolated him even more from people because he was already so isolated because of his
mother isolated. Anytime he would try to bring over.
But on top of that, like then you have their pandemic that they went through. So many things that just like even nowadays you could see with we have a child that's 8, like children and people, like they need to be amongst other people, and so.
Well, one of the issues was I think that I don't even know if Ed Gein truly felt whatever the ramifications of the Spanish flu at that time were. I don't know if it was similar to what we had, but I don't know if he would even felt that because he was very shy, he was very awkward, and also anytime.
But that's also because he wasn't socialized.
Ed Gein, well, every time Ed Gein would try to make a friend and try to bring a friend home in this town of I think about 800 people, Augusta, his mother,
would shut it down.
Would say they're evil and they're gonna tempt you and all this stuff. She wouldn't allow him to have any kind of socialization. Right. So it amplified his shyness, his awkwardness. He was known to have, apparently when he was in school, which is creepy in retrospect, he would be sitting in a desk amongst all the other kids. He would just start busting up laughing by himself without any kind of explanation. And so he was this very awkward kid. He was seen as growing up, he was seen as an awkward guy. kind of did. He lived on the farm and he did odd jobs, and he was seen as a lot of people actually thought he was very nice before they found out what he did, but they thought he was very odd, very strange dude. Um, so he lived his life. It's just a guy, just a normal weird dude.
In interviews
Super weird,
of
but weird.
locals that they had interviewed after he was convicted, people would say that he was a hard worker. He would do a lot of repairs, like handyman stuff in people's houses. Very friendly. So yeah, it's just it's still hard to wrap your head around.
It's hard, but so he's just this strange, bizarre character in this small little town, an awkward man. And then his father died. His father died on April 1st, 1940, of heart failure. So that left. I think his father probably was a little more like it was. We'll see as it progresses that all the stabilizing figures that kept Ed Gein in check slowly disappeared. And it started out with his father, who died of heart failure. I don't think there's any kind of mysterious, crazy circumstances around that. I don't think there's any speculation that it was caused at the hands of Ed. I mean, yeah, his wife must have been a treasure to just everything in sin. So his dad died at the age of 66 in 1940. That left Henry, his older brother, Ed, and his mother. And they lived together for about 4 years after that, until another one of them disappeared. Henry, the brother. And there's some circumstances that lead people to speculate that this might have been some foul play, because what was happened, there was a brush fire that broke out. Ed and Henry were trying to put out the fire, quote unquote, according to the only surviving person, Ed, and his mother. Henry disappeared apparently from them trying to put out this fire. And Ed went to go get help, and Ed said that he didn't know where Henry was, but mysteriously Ed found Henry right away. He led the police to him, and the police thought he died of, I believe, a shock due to the chaos that was happening. But there is some speculation that Henry had bruises on his head. One of the theories behind that is that Henry was the only one who spoke bad against his mother, Augusta, who, again, Ed was obsessed with. He as dominating and as cruel as his mom was, he was infatuated with his mother. He loved his mother. And so Henry actually, I think all reports indicate that Henry was one of the I mean, there's 3 people in the house. He was the only one who actually sort of semi stood up to Augusta, Ed's mom. And so there's some speculation that Ed lost it and he couldn't take it anymore, and he had Henry hit. So this might be the first possible suspicious activity by Ed.
I also think that since Henry was the eldest son, in a lot of families, the eldest son is supposed to be like a little bit more superior. You're supposed to, take after them. So an idea that I might just throw out there is that maybe Ed wasn't the favorite child. Unfortunately, in some households, there's a favorite, So what if that was also the jealousy, the envy, and even Henry knowing that he's the favorite. So if he wanted to say something bad about his mom, he's going to say it, because it's not going to change the way she thinks about him. And maybe somewhere along the line, maybe Ed in his demented head was like, oh, well, Dad's gone. All I need to get rid of is one more, and he killed his brother too.
I mean, maybe that, and I think that one of the things that might have happened, I think there might have been some jealousy. I don't know. I haven't read any reports about the dynamic other than Henry being a little more vocal about his being critical of Augusta's style. But one of the things too Ed might have done was he might have axed out Henry because he wanted mommy to himself. whoever the famous, whoever the favorite son was, he wanted mommy to himself. And so Henry dies of these suspicious circumstances. Ed finally gets his wish. He has mother alone. It's just him in this what's becoming a decrepit farmhouse. And he has his mother, his emblem, his light, his beacon, a fucked up beacon, the worst lighthouse I've ever seen, but it's his light.
Right.
And he has her alone. This lasted about 16 months until Ed's mom had a stroke and she was bedridden. At that point, Ed shifted his idolatry to caring for her almost like she was a baby. He would lay in bed with her. He would stroke her hair. He was obsessed with it. And shortly after that, she had a second stroke that ended her life. And so Ed in 1945 was left at the age of 39 to his own devices in this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere
Without mommy.
without his precious mommy. And so he lost it. And he was known to be very emotionally immature. That all the reports show that at her funeral, like I'm 39, and hopefully, like knock on wood, like our parents last a long time. But at the age of 39, apparently at her funeral, he was wailing like a baby. Not just like despair of losing your parents, which can be very traumatizing. You could shed a ton of tears. You could be sobbing profusely, but the way he was crying, it's hard to explain, but especially during that time. I mean, we were talking about 1945. You didn't have like let's all express our feelings like you do now.
That's true.
And he was just wailing, like he couldn't contain it. He lost his mother, and so that left. We went from the whole family, dad, brother, mom, to just mom for a short period. Then we are left with Ed alone. There was speculation that he was schizophrenic, or he had some kind of psychosis.
Mental.
Yeah, he apparently might have saw things that necessarily weren't there.
The movie Psycho is a perfect reference of.
Well, the movie Psycho is I think the movie to serial killer. The movie Psycho is the mirror image of what.
And that's like when doing research about Ed Gein. That's like after watching the movie Psycho, you really can see the correlation that like if this person was schizophrenic, he's talking in third person where he's almost identifying himself as his mother in some way, shape, or form because he wants to bring her back because he misses her so much. And with schizophrenia, that is something. Having that in my family, I know that with my father, that they do. Unfortunately, it's really twisted, but yeah. So I really like the interpretation that Psycho brought out, with Ed Gein, because I think that's a really good analogy.
Yeah, we were watching it. Yeah, we watched Psycho. I'm on this kick of watching the 100. Like I've seen the vast majority of the horror films that are on like listed as the top 100 highest rated on Rotten Tomatoes horror films. One of the ones I hadn't seen, and I don't know if I ever saw it, was Psycho. And so we watched it recently. And researching Ed Gein and looking at Psycho, obviously the author was completely inspired by Psycho. Completely, it is the like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They take parts of Ed Gein, like some of the things he did.
But it's not as accurate.
Psycho is just Psycho is just like this. Like
I mean, I almost feel like Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a sense is worse because I know we hadn't really got into Ed Gein's first victims, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like a whole other level because there's more than one person involved.
Yeah.
Well, I guess with Ed Gein there could have been more than one person in his head.
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre took the most grotesque parts of what he did and took like the imagery of what it must have felt like when everything was exposed. They really took that part of it. So Ed Gein was left alone, and he was just living his life as just a general handyman. Just guy about town, weird guy, made jokes until 1957. I believe in November. They have I like this is totally Wisconsin thing. They have deer season, and during deer season, all the men. This is so fucking 57. All the men in town go off to hunt deer, and it's just like the town is a ghost town. And I don't know why Ed didn't want to shoot deer. We know why he didn't want to shoot deer, but I don't know why people didn't question why he didn't want to shoot deer. But Ed stuck around, and all the townsfolk, the men, were gone off. And this is a small town, so there's not people lingering around. If a good bulk of the people went off to shoot deer in our town tomorrow, we'd still have plenty of witnesses. But here, the town is basically a ghost town.
Yeah,
right?
especially because now women would be out and about,
out working and stuff. Now it's
not just stuck at home cooking, feeding the children.
Bullshit 50. People shouldn't idolize 50 as much as they do. Different story. So men folk are gone, right? Ed Gein, who was obsessed with the shop owner, hardware store owner, named Bernice Warden, completely upset. I believe there's reports that he asked her to marry or go out, not marry, go out with her. So he was looking for it. Walks into the store, buys some antifreeze, I believe, or says he wants to buy some antifreeze, and the lady, Bernice Warden, goes to the window. Ed Gein takes out a shotgun, shoots her in the back of the head, kills her there on the spot, drags her body into his truck, drives off to his farmhouse. This dope. Thank God Ed Gein was such a dumbbell, because if he was actually smart, then who knows how many people would have been on his rap sheet. Thank God. He drags her away, takes her in his truck, and that's all we hear from. There's no witnesses that say Ed Gein drove off. The son of Bernice Warden shows up to the hardware store, and he's like, "Where's my mom?" She runs this, and back then, if you ran a store, it's not like a Target where
you have a bunch of employees.
Fucking one person calls in sick and nobody notices, right? Bernice was gone. This was Bernice's store. Why is Bernice not here? What the fuck? So his son, wondering what's going on, and he notices an obvious pool of blood. And he goes to, again, thank God Ed was such a dumbbell. Because he goes to the books or whatever, and he notices a receipt for antifreeze from Ed Gein. He's like, that guy was creeping around the store. He's the last one to see her. What the fuck? So he notifies the police. In November, I believe, let me get the date right, when the police showed up to Ed Gein's property. Because that is a day that really has the shift. That this is, everything changes, not only for the how fucked up it was for the police, but everything changes. It was the morning of November 16th, 1957. Was when she disappeared. Actually, that's when she disappeared. Let me see when the police searched his.
Also, touching base on the woman that had her hardware house shop, she was older than Ed, and resembled the mother, had those mother attributes that.
So we'll get into that.
Yeah. So that's just a little teaser. You ready?
So I think on around 5 p.m. is when they, around just shortly after November 16th, when when Bernice Warden disappeared, police entered Ed Gein's farmhouse. So, and Ed Gein wasn't there.
Where was Ed Gein?
I believe he was at a what?
Dinner party.
He was at like a dinner party, yeah.
Because he had friends.
Yeah. So I guess he apparently had. Well, I mean, knew that like people kind of liked him
in a weird way. They thought he was weird, but maybe they felt sorry for him.
I think both. I think they thought, and there is plenty of stories. We're gonna get into Ed Kemper next, but there's plenty of stories. Ed Kemper, Ted Bundy, Ed Gein, not Richard Ramirez. There's plenty of stories of like serial killers being charming and people liking serial killers until they find out they're serial killers. Like that's not that much of an anomaly. So the police enter after there's Frank Warden, Bernice Warden's son, noticed that they were missing, or his mom was missing, and he like, it's Ed Gein. Come on, guys. So they entered his property, and the cops. This is at this time. It's amazing to think that any place would not have electricity, but Ed Gein's house did not have electricity. So they walked in, and it was dark. All they had was their flashlight, which is like the perfect like fucking Halloween horror game.
Kind of gothic, like when it was probably how we lit it at night was all candlelit.
It was dark. That's all I know is it was dark and it was cluttered. It was fucking filthy. And so they're entering this dark house where they can't see anything beyond their flashlight. Their only eyes are through their flashlight. They can't get a full picture when they walk in. So they're stumbling around. One of the officers shines a beam up to a carcass that's floating in the sky. He said, well, that's a deer, a skinned deer. He looks closer. He realizes the decapitated head of Bernice, or decapitated body of Bernice Warden. And then all shit hits the fan. And so the police, I think the reports are the police, and I don't blame them, they run out of the house fucking throwing up, like gagging. They're like, this is fuck. We're talking about 1957 in a small town where
shit like that does not happen.
Where like the probably the biggest case they had all fucking decade was Billy drank too much and got in a pickup truck and was like swerving.
The locals said before all this happened, they would leave their doors unlocked.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just crazy. It was crazy. And so the authorities searched the house. What they found was horrific. You want to go through the list of what they found?
Yeah, let's go through it.
So they found whole human bones and fragments. So there was just bones scattered around. They found a wastebasket, so a trash can made out of human skin. They found human skin, the chairs covered in human skin. They found skulls on his bedpost, so he adorned his bedpost with human skulls. Female skulls, some with the top sewn off, and I saw one report, a town folk, because he would make it into bowls, he would make human skulls. A town folk came over to Ed's house to have some soup. And she didn't realize until later this was a human skull that she had her fucking cereal out of. Bowls made from human skull, which you already said. A corset made from a female torso, skin from shoulders to waist. Leggings made from human leg skin. You know what those were for?
What?
Speaking of mommy.
Them to dress up in?
Yeah. And also masks made from skin of female heads. He would take this suit and reportedly he would put on a face mask made like a real face mask. A mask made out of a face. And prance around in his yard, pretending to be his mother.
Did people see him do that?
No.
So
it was such a big farm.
He said that he did it later on.
He admitted that he did it.
Oh,
a lot of this stuff is he admitted that he did it. Well, I mean, they found the stuff and he's like, yeah, this is what I did. And I don't think they had any reason to doubt him because I don't think he was a fame seeker. And I don't think he had anything to lose. Like he wasn't trying to, like he just said, this is what I did. He was very matter of fact.
Not in the beginning though.
Well, yeah, he was.
Not in the beginning. No, remember he was like silent. He was silent, and then He was like, bring me.
Oh no, that's the complete. He wasn't even like, he was just quiet because he was sitting there. He's like, yeah, this happened. I did it. Hey guys, and he said, I want an apple pie. This was just like an old timey thing. It's actually an old timey thing. I want a slice of apple pie with a slice of cheese on top.
And then I'll
And
tell you everything.
he wanted to have his dessert first, and he's like, I'm going to tell you. Because I think at that point he realized that his time was up. Like that he was like, there was no way he's going to get out. They were in his farm. Like there's no way you're going to get out. So they also found so they found Bernice's head in a burlap sack, her heart in a plastic bag. Then they found another thing. They found the severed head, or the skull of Mary Hogan. Now, who's Mary Hogan?
Wait, did they find her skull, or wasn't it her skin they made a mask out of?
They found both. So they found her skull in a box. They found her skin in a bag. They found her face mask in a bag. Now, who's Mary Hogan? Right? We have we know Bernice Worden is. Mary Hogan was a bar owner who disappeared 3 years prior to 1957. One of the people who frequented that bar was a man by the name of Ed Gein. Now, Mary Hogan is a bizarre case because Bernice Worden seemed, you alluded to it, but Bernice Worden seemed to be the picture of his mother, right? I don't think she was as strict or whatever, but she reminded him of his mother. Mary Hogan wasn't as much, right? She had a foul mouth, like she was kind of like she was in the picture of Augusta, like she would curse, and she was a bar owner, and she was tough,
for the pants,
and all that stuff. So that's a little bizarre why he chose her. But yeah, they found her, so they're like, well, he did this. So investigators sit. They sit Ed Gein down and they ask him, why did you do this? What's going on? Like, we found 2 victims. And you need to tell us. And so that's when he asks for the slice of apple pie and a slice of cheese on top. He sits there and eats, and the investors are waiting. He calmly and coolly and collectedly eats his slice of pie, and then he says, I'll tell you everything. And he admits to the murders of Bernice Worden, the murder of Bernice Worden. He admits to the murder of Mary Hogan. And investigators say, okay, well, they'll tell us about everyone else because we found endless amounts of horrifying things at your house. Where are the other victims? And he proceeds to tell the investigators that there's no other living victims. He only committed 2 murders. The investigators they're just baffled. They're like, well, what? I don't understand. Like, dude,
all these skulls and
you have a target set of fucking skull bolts. Like, what is going on? And he tells them the tale of him slowly. This is part of him going into madness after. Let's see when the dates are. After his mother died, from 1947 to 1952, Ed Gein admitted to doing 40 nocturnal visits to 3 local graveyards. We did 40 visits to 3 local, and he dug up graves.
He would wait to get the paper, the obituary, see when they were freshly buried, because apparently he should get into that too, about his mother, why he never got his mother's body.
So one of the things he would look for is when you read these obituaries, it was like his favorite candy bar. For lack of a bad analogy, I'm sorry. One of his favorite things, types of individuals deceased, he would dig up, was people who reminded him of his mother. And the ultimate person who reminded him of his mother was his mother. And after she passed away, he made plans in his head to exhume her body, but he couldn't, because apparently the sand because of the sand sinks, to preserve the grave, they make extra cement coffins or whatever. So long story short, he couldn't. He wanted to exhume his mother, which is what you
probably tried.
Psycho, the movie Psycho. I mean, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. Sorry, but one of the key scenes in Psycho is when the corpse of the mother is discovered in the rocking chair, and there's this shock room. He wanted to do that, and in fact, he actually set up. I know you saw this. He boarded up one part of the house, one part of the farm house, to preserve his mother's room. Everything, so when investigators walked in, everything was in fucking shambles. There was trash, skulls, trash, flesh. It was a chaotic fucking shithole in that farm. Except for one boarded up room, and that was a perfect museum preservation to his mother.
Yeah.
And for lack of
a shrine.
For lack of the resources, he would have put his mother in that room, but he couldn't. So instead, he just built this room, and he tried to recreate her. And so the investigators like, well, this is fucked up. And just the shock of these investigators, just have that, and also too for the town. Think about the fucking town, where you're like, it's a horror story, and you're relieved that 2 souls passed away. You don't want that to happen. You're relieved he only murdered 2 people, but then you're like, holy fuck! He dug up my aunt. He dug up my best friend. He went desecrating the graves of all these people from the local town. And so the investigators were just like, this is fucked up. And this is, I think, the reason why the psychosis, or the reason why he murdered, was he wanted to create mommy again. Where's Perry?
Oh, he's here?
He's here.
How long has he been here?
I don't know.
Nice.
Hi, Perry.
Oh, hi.
Oh my god. Why didn't you say anything?
I can't.
Yeah, I didn't let him in yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, Perry. How are you?
Good. I didn't have anything set up because it's been a while, and I used my camera and some of my stuff for paintball this weekend, so it took me a minute to set up.
Congratulations. Congratulations. So proud of you.
Cool.
We're talking about grave robbing.
Yeah, I was here. I was listening to everything.
Okay, can I be morbid for just a second?
Oh, as opposed to the rest of the podcast where we talked about bowls
I mean,
made
this
out
is
of
not
human
like
skulls.
this is not like.
Let's get morbid for a second.
It's not like that morbid, but we just recently were hanging out in a cemetery. Just a normal date day for us. I found this really cool cemetery in Pomona, and my old stomping ground, and it was pretty cool because a lot of the graves are old, 1800s and stuff.
They're very old.
And I can't help to, as we're talking about Ed Gein, I can't help to wonder, I wouldn't, because this is completely disrespectful, but I would just be so curious to dig up one of those graves just to see, I love those old vintage coffins.
Those are vintage bodies.
I want to see,
cool
I want to see what they were wearing when they were buried. This is where my mind goes.
I just want to treat a grave like a fashion show.
Yeah, I literally want to see the vintage fucking wood coffin box, and are the guys wearing top hats? Are the females wearing veils? How was their hairstyled?
Why don't you just go to a vintage store?
No. I'm just.
Did you see that video, Perry? You should look at this video. There's a video of apparently in the graveyard there was human hair sticking out.
Is this real?
Yeah, I gotta
stop. What?
God.
It's like pushing up daisies, as they say. The body started to come up.
There was something with when we went to the cemetery, there was
squishy.
Squishiness.
The sand is so like when we're walking, and that
sand, honey.
That cemetery was so crazy too, because it was just so old, so there was just grass covering it. But you're just so curious to be am I being disrespectful? Because I'm just trying to walk through the graveyard, but am I walking? Is this their body? There wasn't a lot of space. It was very unorganized. But yeah, as we're walking, it was just super squishy, muddy. Blah.
Yeah, it was gross.
I kept looking for I don't know, a skeleton finger to be
sticking up, a thumbs up.
Corpse bride.
sticking out of grave. Hair sticking out of grave. California man claims to have discovered human hair poking out of a 100-year-old grave.
No way. See, I would fucking love to see that shit.
I don't know if I can add it. But yeah, I saw it online. On the online creeps.
Perry, can I ask you a personal question?
Oh my god.
No.
I'm asking for a friend. Do you think that it's disrespectful to have sex in a cemetery?
I don't even know how to answer that.
Okay, here's another question for you then. Would you have sex in a cemetery?
No.
Why?
Because there's nothing that would remotely, like, I don't know.
Be sexy about it?
Yeah, it's just not sexy. It's exactly.
You don't think it's like candle setting the mood?
You're just not gothic enough.
No,
see if any of our live people.
Yeah, see, that is exactly. I'm not gothic.
I'm gonna ask. Yeah, you're not gothic enough.
You gotta be gothic
Get out of here.
to do that, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Question for our live people. Do you get aroused in a cemetery? Would you have sex in a cemetery? And do you think
those are two different questions?
If you did have sex in a cemetery,
there's a convenience factor.
I do not have a guilty conscience.
There's a convenience factor, and there's also like if it sets the mood for you. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes it just happens. Perry, like you just could be wandering around.
How many people have sex in a church, but they don't think a church?
You know,
like...
if you get turned on, I don't know, maybe Agatha from the 1800s, fucking like I don't know, comes to fucking haunt your ass and turn you on while you're in the cemetery, and just shit happens.
You know Agatha.
Maybe if you're drunk or something.
There's a lot of like
not sober.
Like fun old names.
Old timey Agatha had a great ass.
Was there an Agatha? What names were there?
There was an Agatha. Come on,
I'm saying when we went. No, I'm saying, but when we were there.
There's an Esther and an Agatha in every single cemetery.
There was an Esther.
Was there an Esther? There you go.
Yeah.
So Perry, what we're talking about Ed Gein. Do you know anything about Ed Gein?
Yeah, that guy's a weirdo.
Oh my God, Perry.
Well, I mean, yeah.
What are you rattling around over there?
No, I dropped my light. Like my whole set is really messed up right now. Everything's just.
I like your shirt though.
Yeah.
What I could see of it. Perfect.
Okay.
You're really ready for the spooky season.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You got it ready. Do you know he was creepy, right?
Yeah, okay. He's just his mom fucked him up.
His mom really fucked him up, and he was obsessed with mother. And so just
what did happen to his dad? They killed him, or his dad just died?
No, they didn't kill. So the dad died of a heart attack.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's some speculation that the brother was killed by Ed.
Oh, okay. It was the brother that was probably killed.
Because brother apparently talked back to mommy too much.
Yeah.
There's a speculation. And the funny part is they said, so he was never convicted of the murder of his brother. But he said, so this all happened around a fire, right? There was a fire around their barn. Henry, who's his brother's name, and Ed were trying to fight the fire. And then Ed disappeared to go tell the authorities. And then he told the police, I don't know where Henry is. And then he proceeded to lead investigators right to Henry. It's like, oh, look, I magically found him. Yeah. And apparently he had bruises on his head. And they said it was because of the fall, because he had like a stroke or whatever.
Yeah, he killed him. That was his first kill, probably.
Okay. That was his first murder.
Can we get back to my question?
No.
Back to the cemetery?
Campfire Tales podcast. Okay, I see your comment. I will not repeat it, but do you think it's disrespectful?
Okay.
Yeah, he said Ed 100% killed his brother. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Okay, so is it disrespectful?
Is it disrespectful to kill your brother? Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the cemetery.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I googled it, and I felt like it was, they made it seem like it was okay if you're doing it for the right reasons.
What?
Then yeah. But I mean, if you're like a witch, I know there's like a certain like blood moon, whatever shit thing. So I think as long as you're respectful about it, like what's your problem?
I mean, that's a topic question. You could throw it to the polls. We got railroaded. It's like we got railroaded in a cemetery. Yeah. Perry left.
Why?
Yeah. Get back into the meat of it while he's doing his thing. We'll probably jump back in.
Well, they might want you to get laid, but maybe they're jealous, or maybe they're super religious, especially for that time. You know, it's not like you're dealing with some probably like Ed Gein moms back then. Like that's blasphemy.
Okay, but don't you? So if you shake off these mortal coils, don't you? And there is like let's not debate about whether there's spirits or whatever. Like let's not. If there are,
maybe it's because I'm frozen too. There may be something your fault.
It might be. Are you frozen on the thing? Oh, because you lost it.
Oh, that's why.
Oops. But if you shake off the mortal coils, are you still like? So if you're uber Christian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you die, and then you're just sitting around in a cemetery, you're still gonna be like, don't do that. Like that's sinful. You're gonna be like, everything I believe is wrong. I'm chilling in a cemetery.
I mean,
you do what you want, guys. Like you're still not gonna be.
If you have like some weird unfinished business, like I don't know, maybe you don't know that
like
you're
the crow, but like for
maybe
sex,
you don't
please?
know that you're dead.
So you're like the crow, but instead you're just trying to break up like good time parties.
I'm just saying.
I don't
hypothetical.
know. Anyways, Ed Gein.
Whatever.
Ed Gein. Whatever. Fucking Ed Gein. So yeah, he lets on that he made 40 fucking trips to cemeteries, to 3 different cemeteries. Again, if I was a townfolk, like, be so pissed off. You know what? One thing that I don't see in my notes that I know. Oh, here it is. We didn't mention it, so we missed out some things. So 9 vulvas. Vulvae, I guess it's the plural for vulvae in a shoebox. That's not funny.
Nipple belt.
A nipple belt, 4 noses, pair of lips, a lampshade. That's one of the most famous ones. It's a lampshade from the skin of a human face. Fingernails.
You know, it's crazy. They have to have the pictures of this shit somewhere.
Oh, there are. Yeah, I'm sure there are from investigating and stuff like. I don't know. I think I've seen pictures, but I'm like, I'm not going to take the time to verify if that's an actual picture of nipple belt because it looks like a nipple belt. I'm not going to be like, this is not screen accurate. I need to find out if this is the real. Like, I'm okay. Yeah. I saw what it probably looks like. I'm fine. Got it. I got the gist.
I mean, by watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre will give you the gist.
Yeah. So, and also too, one of the things that they found within his residence, beautiful fucking tangled up residence. I shouldn't call it beautiful. It's fucking disgusting. Was some of the vulva that he would have around, he would paint. He would put ribbons on. And he would even adorn some of them while he's wearing the skin suit.
Didn't he do lipstick on like the faces?
Some of the faces, yeah. And that's where the Texas Chainsaw, like if you notice towards the end, Leatherface has lipstick on, and that's kind of the inspiration for it. And that's the inspiration. So to get kind of the movie ties in, like the inspiration for Psycho is abundant. Like it's the man who is obsessed with mother and who can't talk to women. He has no connection, and he sees all women as both a temptation and as like, you know, evil and all that. And he ends up murdering him. And it almost falls in line with Psycho 2. The thing I like about Psycho is that if you look at Psycho, there's not, compared to like your movies like Saw or Texas Chainsaw, there's not a ton of murder in that movie, right? Which kind of falls in line with Ed Gein, right? He gets kind of caught before he has the chance to. Like, you know that Norman Bates would have fucking murdered a whole shit ton of people if he had a chance.
I don't know. Like, when I watch Psycho, like he just seems like such a nice, like, man. Like, I feel like, what if he would have met this other woman? Because so in Psycho, like, he gets really agitated, and it kind of goes back to like the Ed Gein thing when his brother Henry would talk shit on the mom, and then that would really piss him off, so he fucking lit him on fire. So like for me, I'm like, when I'm watching Psycho, the female, I forget her name, that he ends up like killing, or mother kills, he, he gets very upset at her because she's just like, whoa, your mother is like too much, like put her in a home. And he's just like, how dare you say that about my mom? So I wonder if she was like the nurturing, like, your mother sounds amazing. Oh, you're such a good, like, I wonder if there was.
But is that right? Is that right?
No, but I'm just curious if Ed Gein, if there was a female, I don't know, that he could.
Well, it's a rational thought, right? Because he would take it. So Ed Gein, for instance, he was very emotionally immature, right? He was incredibly immature. He was fucked up. He couldn't socialize. He was obsessed with, like, what woman, like, what significant other would. I mean, they were saying if they would put up with it, but you can't expect them to put up. You can't be like, if you just met, because it feels like guys like Ed Gein, and I don't think we're gonna have time to get into Ed Kemper, the other mama's boy.
Two-parter.
Two-parter on this one. Two-parter. Calling it a two-parter. Yeah.
Do we have
Campfire
time
wants to join in with us. What, Perry?
for the second part?
You wanna go? What?
Are you doing your research right now?
No, I know all about this guy. So this
You know
is
about
like,
Ed Kemper?
this guy's basically personality's exact opposite of Ed Gein. Well, not exact opposite,
he's
but
very intelligent. That's
well, here's the thing.
opposite.
Ed Kemper actually, I think as much as Ed Gein gets the focus of like so much mythos with this fucking serial obsession culture, whatever. I think Ed Kemper, to me, his personality is more fascinating because he is all kinds of things, and we can get into why I think he's probably more fascinating than Ed Gein. Ed Gein, these are two very fascinating Eds, both probably monsters, definitely monsters. But Ed Gein, to kind of put a ribbon on this, like not on the vulvas, but put a ribbon on this story, is Ed Gein confesses to all these crimes. He's actually put into a medical facility because he's deemed to be not a fit mind to stand trial. He doesn't stand trial until I think the 60s, where he's convicted of one count of murder, right? Ed Gein, the inspiration behind Psycho, the inspiration behind Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the inspiration behind Buffalo Bill of Silence of the Lamb, and the correlation between Buffalo Bill is because Buffalo Bill is trying to build a human suit. That's where they get that. That's the whole inspiration thing. This man who inspired all kinds of like serial killer culture, and he's one of the most famous out there, was only convicted on one count of murder. He clearly committed two.
Yeah.
He committed two, but he was only sentenced on one count of murder. Mary Hogan, he was not committed for Mary Hogan. So Bernice Worden is the only one he was.
That's a bunch of bullshit.
I mean, yeah, you would think, yeah. When you find, I would say a good reason for convicting someone of murder is when you find the victim's head in a bag in the perpetrator's house. I think that would be good grounds for conviction, but I don't know. I'm not a legal expert. I don't know. When you find a face mask.
I think because he pleaded insanity, that's where it kind of all got swept away. And then when he was in the institution, right? What didn't they say? He was like friendly. He obeyed the rules. Never acted out. So I think that there was a lot of like, in a weird way, I don't know how, but a lot of like empathy for him.
I think, well, it's hard to, I think that when you, probably with these folks who run some of these institutions, when you hear about these horrific crimes, it's one thing, but when you're dealing with someone on the daily and they're super, to all appearances, like they're super friendly, it's hard to not develop something, like some kind of remote compassion for them and still think they were a nice guy and just be baffled by it, right? So he was sentenced to murder. He lived his life until we said 1984, when he was about 77. He passed away of natural causes.
2 years after we were born.
2 years after we were born. Don't date us. Don't date us. But that's that's Ed Gein, right? And so a lot of people wonder what happened to this house, right? There's no world in which if it wasn't grabbed by a private investor, it wouldn't be like a fucking horror museum right now, right? They would be all over. Like there would be tours and all that stuff. There's people coming into town because this was like one of the first big fucking nationally kind of broadcast murders trials. And, there was H.H. Holmes was very popular, or very prolific and very very well known. But this was like the first like serial culture obsession type of thing, what they deemed wounded culture apparently. But so he, it was all of there was people visiting, so they were going to auction off the house, right? Mm-hmm. And right before it went for sale, the house mysteriously burned down.
You know that those were the locals, because the locals were already complaining that.
Oh, if I were the locals,
they were very. It's like you with fucking Buena Park. Okay, time out, Harry.
Oh my
Harry.
God. What is
Harry,
I'm not going to burn down
Harry,
Buena Park.
I need to ask you an
Buena
important
Park.
question. Oh, you're not
too.
Another one, are you?
BP. What is that?
Are you
BP?
serious?
We gotta wear a BP rec shirts.
Stop. Like Chris gets like defensive when I'm like,
because you judge it.
Because I'm like, Buena Park is fucking ghetto. The only thing good that's here is Knott's Berry Farm, and that's ghetto as fuck too. But it has its charm.
No.
Where else do you have?
Knott's Berry Farm is
nostalgic.
Is almost as famous as Disneyland. How many times have you seen them at OC Hoods?
Disneyland's way better. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
Come on.
Oh, really going out on a limb saying Disneyland's better.
Look at Perry. You're like him. You're defending Buena Park. Why?
I
come from fucking Chino. I'm not gonna defend it. It was ghetto as fuck.
Here's the reason why I like Buena Park. I don't know how we got on this subject, but Buena Park, I like how fucking weird it is. Right? It's like you have medieval times, and it's kind of like you have an amusement park. Like that's like
Silverado days,
sort of like Disneyland, but you can like see like the fucking trash bins. You can see trash bags. Like it's almost charming. It's fucking charming in how oddball.
Yeah, I remember Chris was super excited to take me to Silverado days.
I was,
and I was mortified.
Nobody knows about Silverado days.
No, nobody needs to.
Hey, this weekend or next weekend.
You don't need to know.
Okay.
No. Anyway,
I got a story about Silverado days.
I'm sure you do.
Oh yeah, that's right. Perry got arrested for
Oh my God, fucking Buena Park people. Fucking
I
Buena
forgot
Park
about
people.
that. Literally, when you said.
Why were you arrested, Perry?
It might be funny to you. It might be.
Me too.
Is that Annalise?
I don't know.
Hi, Annalise.
I'm on the line. Stop.
Oh shit.
Oh.
Wait, is he still there?
I don't know.
Hi, Perry.
Anyways,
he was arrested.
He was arrested. So the house.
So, anyways, but
fucking burned down.
Wait, but why I was segueing to that is like these people from this small town were very prideful. Nothing like that ever happened. Like they wanted to still be able to be like, yeah, I'm from here because it's great. Like you are from Buena Park.
No, I don't.
Great. So for them, I really think it was a lot of people coming together being like, let's burn this motherfucker down. We don't want people coming from out of town. We want, everybody to fucking leave and stop coming here. They didn't want it to be known as like this horrible place.
Can you blame them? Like, I don't, like, could you imagine being from a small little town and all of a sudden all these dopey tourists come in and they want to buy fake skull bowls and they want to like check out the house. And you're just like, I'm used to like having a small town. Like, I don't want this to be a weird tourist trap.
I like how you say that, but me and you are totally like, when we go to New Orleans, we want to go to
we'd be those dopey tourists.
I actually want to go to Wisconsin to go.
You'd just be going to a field at this point. It's probably a Target at this point.
But still, it's just that feeling. It's like when we went to visit the Cecil Hotel. It was just like, just knowing that my boyfriend wandered the streets there. Like it's pretty cool.
I don't understand
cool
this.
feeling.
I don't understand this big bridge you're dying on with picture in yours. It's such a weird stance.
Richard Ramirez walked
It's
down
like
the
you and the other 3 women who are obsessed with him who were in the courthouse during his trial. It's you and 3 other.
No.
No.
I just
He's
now
a monster.
I do it because
I know what
pisses
you're
you
doing.
off.
You're trying to be controversial. That's cool. Eyebrow City, USA. So yeah, what lays of Ed Gein's legacy is obviously he didn't have any kids, right? There's no children. Like my dad was a serial killer, like BTK, people writing books or anything like that. His family completely gone by the time he was even arrested. He was all alone.
Question though, for them to touch my pencil, trying to take my pencil away.
Like this.
Yeah, it sounds cool. Sounds good.
That's the privileges.
What about like, okay,
Okay.
this is just a possibility. You know?
Don't say he's still alive, that he faked his.
No,
his
no,
heart
no.
attack.
That would be cool though. Not cool, but
Why would that
weird.
Some
No,
90-year-old
what I was gonna
too.
say is maybe the real factor of his mom saying, "Oh, we have to leave this heathen town to go move to this really small town," because maybe they did kill some people over there, and they were coming in this little small town to hide away because they're natural born killers.
Sure.
If they're like that, they're like that. You know what I mean? Like if it's in the blood, it's the blood.
It's in the blood, baby. It's in the blood. Yeah, I don't know. I think that his mom was crazy. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say his mom was psychotic.
Crazy enough to kill somebody. Schizophrenia probably runs in
Maybe.
the family.
I mean, maybe. I mean, she seems like the type who would like blow up an abortion clinic. She seems that type, but I don't know about like murdering random strangers off the street. And I think that one of the questions I have to you. So, what do you think would have happened if he wasn't so sloppy? Right? He essentially. I mean, he was able to commit one murder before he got caught with the second. But for all intents and purposes, like he was almost looking the way he conducted
I think he
the crime.
got the taste. I think he got the taste of the killing, the fresh blood, and I think that he would have continued to kill people for sure.
That was my question. So you think he would have I think he would have probably continued on too. I don't think that it would have been one and done.
But he's so stupid though, because it's just like, just for like, I feel like for anybody like especially in a small town, eventually they're going to narrow it down. So it's just like, how many could he have got away with? He would have to go into out of town.
He would have had to go out of town,
Yeah.
which he might have done. But
Right.
you know, he clearly wasn't thinking like I'm going to be.
No.
I think he was never thinking like I think some serial killers like your BTKs, your Ed Kemper for a certain period of time, and a lot of other serial killers, they're trying to get away with them. They're trying to see how many they can get away with before the police catch on to them. But I think with with Ed Gein, his obsession with this manufacturing with his mother and his obsession with tweaking, he just wanted fresher body, right? And his obsession just drove him to that point. I don't think he was thinking about getting away with it. I don't think for any moment he might have had some thoughts, but I don't think he thought like I'm gonna clean up this crime scene and try to make it look like it's not me, but then he got hurried out or whatever. I think his obsession, his drive for this and his drive to recreate his mother ultimately just caused this impulse to kill Bernice Worden. And he didn't. There was no contemplation on uncovering up the crime scene. He didn't wear gloves. He didn't do any of that stuff. I mean, he literally shot her in the back of the head when she went to go grab something. Right? He didn't wait till she was further back. He didn't do any of this. Right? So, I think Ed would have got caught quick, no matter even if he somehow got away with the Bernice Worden
I agree.
thing, because he was driven by obsession without an instinct for carrying on. Like he just was this was his drive, and he was gonna be stopped. He was working off a weird childlike impulses to recreate mommy. So that's the story of Ed Gein.
Dearest.
Mommy Dearest. Are we gonna get Ed Kemper, or are we gonna do this another night?
I think we should save it, and then I
Oh,
think.
Perry's jumping in.
Oh fucking.
We could do this tomorrow
and I
night.
think if
that's what I
if
was
you want to coordinate maybe with Kemper, I don't know if you guys are doing a podcast tomorrow.
I would like to coordinate with Campfire.
Yeah.
If it's Ouija, I gotta do more research.
No, I'm saying if you wanted to just like
Ed Kemper,
just for
Big Ed.
shits and giggles,
Big
we
Ed.
can continue
Big
that
Ed.
tomorrow. And if you wanted to do it with us, then we could do it. We'll message you. Later.
Can I give you a tease? One thing that just popped in my head that bothers me, or it tickles me, or I don't know what it does to me, is the fact that fucking Ed Kemper. No, it's not like this gets my rocks off. But just what fascinates me
cemetery sex?
Is that like Ed Kemper called to confess, and his cop buddies were like, "No, you're not doing this. This is not true." And they literally hung up on him, and he had to call
They
them
should have
again.
all of them should have been fired.
No, guys, I'm serious. I killed someone. Please listen. It's so. Ed Kemper is fascinating. His whole story.
You know
how smart
what's
he was,
even more
how big
fascinating? Like you think that's
We're
the
getting
fucking
into it already,
kicker.
but we can't.
No. This is like
No,
I
fine.
told this already. Like, so my mom's gonna kill me for saying this.
Oh no.
My mom's been married like 8 times, and
This is the first episode. You should get her to tune in.
and I feel like when I look at
Mom,
Ed
tune in when we
Kemper's
talk about your
face,
divorces and skull
I
bones.
feel like that's some guy that she probably would have dated.
You said that. You said it.
And
okay,
married.
we can get into that. Yeah, we can get into
watching the interviews with him and stuff like that, I was like, fuck. It was like, so mom doesn't really have a type, like, just that, like,
serial killer type of parents.
that like mediocre white, whatever, like, and I don't know, there's something about his spark in his eye. She dated like a British guy that was like that. He was like Americanized, like no accent, but he was of British descent. And I'm just kind of like looking at him like, yeah, my mom would have dated that guy, probably.
Anyways, well, this has been an episode of ExtraNormal Podcast.
I'm your host, Brianna Kaye.
I'm your co-host, Brianna Kaye, too.
And I'm the guy that occasionally joins.
And this is Perry, absentee dad parent of the podcast. Perry has to come in person. We have to schedule it
I was
ahead.
going to say, I should have just came in tonight because
Perry,
I was having
if it
so
makes
many
you
problems.
feel safer, I'm fully vaccinated, so
She's got
you
that.
can come.
Microchip.
I did it. I didn't want to do it, but I did it.
Stop acting like you didn't want to do it. You were on the fence about it. You did
and
it.
I'm
Nobody
over
forced
it,
you to do it. Who cares?
And I'm not looking into any of the conspiracies anymore. Timer's going off.
Oh shit! Oh no! It's time for me to go to bed.
Wrap it up.
Grandpa's got to go to bed. Whatever. I'm gonna edit this. You get this. This has been an episode of ExtraNormal Podcast. My name is Christoph. Alongside me is Brianna. On the other side of the county is Perry.
Buena Park.
You can find us. Make sure BP Buena Park in the flesh. You can make sure you if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that like button if you like. If you're listening to this on audio, make sure you like and subscribe there too. Give us a good rating. If you don't like us, don't give us bad ratings because that hurts our feelings. And we're just trying to do our thing. We're just trying to have a good time. Please don't hurt our feelings. If you want to follow some of the pictures we'll probably be posting in the aftermath, you can find us on Instagram at ExtraNormal Podcast. Find us on Twitter at ExtraNormalP. If you have feelings about having sex in the graveyard, extranormalpodcast@gmail.com. Brianna's going to read those emails. I'm not going to. And thank you
I want to know.
for listening.